Hi, my name's Darren Smith. I'm the co-founder of Empool. Um, you can catch me on Twitter at Darren Smith. I am giving a short and sweet version of the full growth-driven design training. My aim is to give you a series of short 10-minute videos that really set the foundation and give you a good understanding of growth-driven design. And of course, I do recommend that you do the full 13 hours of training on the HubSpot website and get that certificate. But this should give you a really good foundation. So today we're talking about growth-driven website hierarchy. The hierarchy is really an important part of growth-driven design, and it's really important that you understand it. So just to give you an overview, when you look at a website, there are thousands of things that you could do to a website to improve it. And as a result, you either spend too much time analyzing what to do and never actually get around to implementing things, or you spend time doing things that don't matter. So you decide to make a change just because it's an easy change, or you feel that that's what you need to do, but it doesn't actually make an impact. So with the hierarchy, the goal there is to give you a framework to focus your efforts, so your time is spent most effectively and efficiently. So there's a hierarchy that moves from the bottom of the hierarchy, where you start with audience, to the top of the hierarchy, where you end with promoters, and you move through this hierarchy, and you don't make changes unless it makes sense for the stage that you're currently in. It's really important not to skip steps. They are in a particular order. And the reason why you don't want to skip steps is because you may go and decide to change something that in the end has little impact, because something at lower down, more foundational in the hierarchy, is not yet achieved. For each stage of the hierarchy, you do set a focus metric, and when that focus metric is met, that is when you know it's time to move on to the next stage of the hierarchy. And then once you've gone through all stages of the hierarchy, you start at the bottom again. And the only difference is that you set a higher focus metric, you set a higher goal, and you see if you can reach that. And you go over and over and over through this hierarchy, continually improving your website, making it more user-friendly, and more toward kind of growth-driven. So the steps of the hierarchy, starting at the bottom, is the audience step. Then you move into the value step, the usability step, the conversion rate optimization step, the stickiness step, personalization, assets, and then last of all, promoters. Over the next two slides, I'm going to go into the detail around these steps. There's a lot to cover, so do make notes as we go through this, and maybe watch this training more than once. All right, so we're going to start off with the audience step. The goal of the audience step is to build a flow of visitors to the website. Obviously, the way that you're going to measure this, so the focus metric, is month-on-month unique visitors. And then always set some leading indicators. So these are leading indicators are things that will help you identify whether you are moving closer to your focus metric. So obviously, if your SEO ranking is improving, your month-on-month unique visitors should be improving. Obviously, if you have an increased number of blogs, you have more pages on your website, and you should start getting more unique visitors. And if you have links from other websites to your website, you should start getting more and more unique visitors. So these are just a couple of leading indicators that you can use. There's obviously many more, but it's important to set some leading indicators for each stage. A couple of pro tips for each stage, which I'll give you, is obviously organic traffic in the building of audience is really, really important. It's long-term, it's sustainable, and you should be aiming for unique visitors, not necessarily kind of returning visitors. And what you're looking for on a monthly basis is anything between 3,000 to 5,000 monthly visits, or on a daily basis, anything between 50 to 100 daily visits. Right, then you move on to the next stage of the hierarchy, which is the value stage. In this stage, you really want to be the goal is to be solving a pain point for the user. And the way that you can test this is through a question. I say, how useful did you find the pain point, the solution to the pain point, on a scale of 1 to 10? And you can test this with a pop-up survey as an example. So over here, your leading indicators is bounce rate. So if you're solving a pain point, someone's not going to leave your site immediately. How long are they spending on your site? Are they spending a significant amount of time because you are adding such huge value? and how many times are they sharing this page or this section of your website because it's adding such huge value and solving a pain point. So when it comes to pro tips, create quality content. Check if your page passes the blink test, because you may be solving a pain point on your page, but it is so hidden that it's not being seen. So does it pass the blink test? And you really need to ask yourself on every page on your website, what makes this page remarkable for the user? Moving on to the next stage of the hierarchy is usability. And you want to be testing here. Your goal is to make the ease of use really, really simple. And you want to be increasing the number of tasks completed. So you may have a task for somebody to download a particular PDF, or maybe fill out a contact us form, or maybe the task is you want them to add something to their cart, or maybe you want them to check out. So you want to be increasing the number of users completing a particular task. And you'll be using the funnel tracking to do this. Once again, you can look at bounce rate. You can look at support tickets. So if there's lots of support tickets about a certain part of your website, or the support tickets are decreasing, that means your usability is improving. And you can also look at the Net Promoter Score, how many people would recommend you to others. So a couple of pro tips here is try reduce the learning curve. Don't try to do something that's completely unique and different, and the user has to learn how to do things your new way. And then when you're busy evaluating whether this is working, segment your users that failed to complete the task versus those that did complete the task. And then look at their sources, look at their demographics, look at the previous pages they visited. Are there any trends that certain groups of users are managing to complete the task while others are not? Moving on to the next stage of the hierarchy is the conversion stage. So you really want to eliminate friction in the funnel. So similar to the usability, this is about identifying a set of things from initial interest through to actually making a purchase or making an inquiry, and that's why it's called a funnel. And you want to be the focus metric there is completion percentage from first step to last step. And obviously your leading indicators can be the percentage complete of each step in your funnel. Now ideally a funnel is as short as possible, so you want to have a 1 or 2 step funnel, but that's not always possible. Other pro tips include, similar to usability, isolate those that have completed the funnel and reverse engineer their behavior. Look at segment them on demographics, on sources, on anything, to try and work out why are some users completing the funnel and others are not. Once you've sorted out your funnel, move on to the stickiness stage in the hierarchy. And what you want to be doing here, your goal is to get users coming back regularly. And so your focus metric is going to be the number of visits per user within a certain period. And leading indicators here is how many subscribers do you have to the section or to your website, to your blog, and so on. What is your social following like? And what are the days, how many days between updates that you make to your website? Really give users a reason to return to your website. Notify users somehow of updates, whether that be through email updates or through in-app updates, and do remarketing. Once you've got people coming back to your site, your conversion sorted, your usability is good, and so on, you can then move on to your personalization stage, which is where you really want to give the user a unique experience, a custom experience, and what you want to do is identify what users you want to give a custom experience for. Is it a certain persona? Is it a certain demographic? Is it a certain stage of buy-in? So you identify what you want personalization for, and then you go back and you re-look at all the stages in the hierarchy before this. So you look at, for this particular user, whether it be from a certain city, what is the usability like for this user? What is the conversion like for this user? What is the stickiness like for this user? And you adapt your website for those particular users. Next stage is assets. This is where you start creating items so valuable that users would be prepared to pay for them. It goes beyond the ebook. This is actually tools and calculators and that type of thing, functionality that you build into your website, tools that you build into your website that that add such huge value that users would pay for them. You would want to be, your focus metric here is number of qualified leads per an asset. And leading indicators could be the number of visitors you get in by different channels, the number of leads you get in, the number of shares you get in, the inbound links that you get in. A really good way to look at this is to actually run the growth-driven design hierarchy process for each one of these assets. So once again, going back to whether you have enough traffic, what's your usability like, and so on, and go through those hierarchy stages. And also think about how can you actually test this idea within 5 days with no budget, because you don't want to go and build an expensive tool and then it doesn't work. So come up with an experiment and test to see whether it will work. The last stage of the hierarchy is the promoter stage, where your goal here is that every person that completes a certain action gets another person to do that. So your focus metric is going to be your referral ratio that you want to larger than 1, and you also want to have that speed of referral cycle really high, so people kind of refer people really quickly. Leading indicators here would be social sharing and email referrals. And then pro tips here is obviously make social sharing and make ability to refer people as seamless as possible, and maybe even provide incentives for them to refer people. The last slide here is just more of a question. It's, can a hierarchy like this be used to build analysis on other digital channels, not just your website, where you start with the foundation, and as you get things right, you move to the next stages. So for example, you could do this with social media or SEO, marketing automation, email, paid media, which makes your analysis and your time that you use doing this much more effective. Thank you for watching today. Head over to our YouTube channel to see what's next in the Growth Driven Design series.